Hello folks, you are welcome to my channel. Today I will teach you how to create a test for React app or test for React component, stateless component or stateful component. I created this very simple application here, a React app. We are going to use this and we are going to create a test for this application. So what this app will do, basically, this is a form, a simple form. When you fill this form and then press submit, then we'll show this list of users here, or the registered user here. And also if you see this submit button is grayed out, when I fill the form should show this submit button, and then I can submit that. Let's just showing you how to do this. If I just start by adding just here my name, for example, and any fake email, and as you see now I see this submit button is appearing. If I press here, it will add this new registered user here, and also will clear out this form and will gray out, or it will show this button as disabled button. And so we are going to create a test for all this actually. So we'll start on this tutorial with a very simple one. So testing this form and also testing this component here for showing this list of users. So if I come back here to the where we have the code, so this is the application, very simple application here. So I created this React app using parcel library, which is here, is called parcel handler, this one here. So and if you are using create React app, also that will be fine. So basically that will make it more easier for you. There is around 4 or 3 packages we need to install. So this, if we just start here with the jest, and this jest library, we need to install this jest for testing, and also we need to install testing library, this testing library, React testing library, and also we need to install this testing library / React hook. And usually with the create React app will come with the jest. Sometimes you don't need to install this, but you need to check that if not exist here on this package.json, you need to install it. And also we make sure these 2 libraries are installed. Basically here's testing library / React and testing library / React hooks. So basically if you're using a create React app, you don't need to do anything else. But if you're using parcel create React app, or using React app that created by using parcel library, then you need to just config this here, just config file, and you need to add this test environment to be this JS DOM, and that just for configuration. Other than that, you don't need to do anything. That's it. So let's just, as you see here, I'm running the application. Let me do very quick run test. Already I have list of tests for this app. I'm going just showing you, and I will clear this test and I will start to do it with you. If I just run npm run test, and then this should run all tests that we have. And this script, if you don't have it, basically usually will be here on this bucket.json. And let's just see the test that around we have 3 files and we have 9 test cases that all of them are passed. And if I go to this package.json here, for example, if you don't have this test script already exists, you need to come to this package.json, and inside the script here add this new script, and the value will be just jest. And also you can add here test coverage. For example, if you'd like to find out how much you cover your test, for example, if I just run instead of npm run test, will be just coverage, and this will show you how many test coverage that you have for your application. And usually with 100 was the one that has really good tests, and as you see here we have full 100 for all our components and functionalities. So how to add that one coverage? Also this will be just the name of the script will be coverage, and here you need to just pass just -- collect coverage. And where I get this from, you can get it from just library configuration here. If you came to jest here, if you see this, just do a documentation, and here we're showing you how to do that one. If I just come back here, that's the list of tests that we have. We have tests for form. We have two components here, component for form and also component for users. And we have container, and this container will be about showing complex stuff. We are going to talk about this in next tutorial, which will be for stateful testing React component. And in this tutorial, we are going to just to test very simple stateless components. And let's just start do that. Let me clear this here, and also I'm going to come first to start with the form. So let me just clear this snapshot. I'm going to delete this, and also I'm going to delete anything inside this file here. And so how to start first? By writing your test file name. For example, this form component here, and usually this is a convenient way how to create a React component directory. Then it will be like the component name inside will be the index where you create your component. So this very simple here, form component has this list of HTML form and with these props, and this props here just as a condition to show when to show this button here, submit button, and when to make it like a disabled button, this one here. So this condition here also we need to add a test case for this, and we need to add very simple test case for the form itself. And already as I mentioned also how to create the file. So it will be just by the name of the component will be form, then .test.js. So this is very empty here. Let me just bring some code here to speed up this tutorial. So this here, this list of code here, just to speed this tutorial, we need to import React first at the top, and then we need to import this render from test library /react. Just this is a package I mentioned at the beginning that we need to install. And also we need to import our components. So this component will be this component here we created called form, and we need to import it inside this form.test.js file. And after import that, we need to create this describe wrapper. So this will be wrapper for all test cases for the form component, and inside this wrapper then we'll create a test case for all different scenarios. For example, if we'd like to start with this render component, we need to make this component is rendered. To make sure this component is rendered, we'll start by first, for example, by create a variable, and this will be result and will be equal render. And render is a function. This is just we imported here. Then we need to pass down our form component, and so that this is a component is created. Let's find out if this component will require any props. Let me come back here again to the component. As you see, this component, it will expect around 3 different props. So these props, how we can find about them, this handle submit, it will be called this inside this unhandle submit, which is a function, and handle change also will be a function. When you press on any one of this input, then it will call this on change, and it will call this handle change function. And the users, it will be array, or it will be an object. How I use this an object, because as you see we do like user dot first name. This it will tell us the user it is an object, because we're using this dot operator, and then we'll try to access this key inside this object. So the object will have first name, last name, and email. Let's just create very quick here user, and I'm going to use this as a prop just because already to find out about this name, and this will call it users equal, and then this will be an object, and we'll have first name, let's just call it Mo, and then last name, and will be Duina, and email will be just b@b.com, and this just will be a prop. So I'm going to cut this from here, and I'm going to move it to our test here. Inside this test, I'm going to create just add this as a top here. This is our user, and also as I mentioned, this will expect a props called user. Let me just remove the s, and we are going to pass this as a props, and then equal curly braces and user. And what else it will expect? It will expect handle submit and handle change. Let's also pass this as 2 props and handle change. And now this props, we pass these props down. And how we are going to make sure this component is rendered, we are going to take a snapshot for this component, and the snapshot will basically be a snapshot for the skeleton of this component or this layout of HTML. If there is anything changed, then the test will break. Let's, for example, first how to access that. So we are going to destructure this actual result. Inside here we'll access container, and then we can expect container, and the container will be the wrapper for all the component, and we expect container to match a snapshot, and this will be just a function. So basically, let me comment out this first 2 lines here. And now if I run the test, let me run the test. Open just here this terminal, npm run test. And this is going to run for all other components, but we are going to specify only this directory, which will be form.tests. And as you see here, let me first copy this directory. We are going to run the test only for this file. And already that is failing. Let's find out why it's failing. Yeah, before I actually find out, seems here we are not calling the component correctly. It's form instead of from. Let me save it and try again. That will take some second to load. Yeah, so that now is failing, and will tell us handle submit is not defined. Let's find here handle submit. Yeah, so basically I tried to pass this here as handle submit, handle change. These 2 functions are not defined. So basically we are going to just to pass like empty function here, because it's just for testing, and this doesn't matter. Actually should be whatever this function, and this should fixing these 2 props. So this is a props name and this is a value. The value will be just empty function. And if we try it again, then this time should be pass, and that should be also show here a snapshot. As you see, it will show this directory, and now this our test is pass. And if you open this snapshot, and you can find the HTML element here, or the component skeleton. So for example, if we go back to this form here, component, if we try to add anything, like if we change this first name to, for example, hello world, and try to run the test again, then just to make sure our test is fail basically. When you get to your test pass, that's not it. You need to make sure your test is failing also. So to get, yeah, as you see, that now is comparing and telling us you change this first name to hello world, so that we are make sure now our testing is work fine. If I just undo this line to first name and try run test again, should be now pass. And this will take some second again. As you see, this test pass, and let's go to next test case. So this first test case is done. Let's go to the next one. Let's enable this line. And what this actually, we telling this should display the button when one of the user data is missing. So what is this mean basically? If remember earlier that when I show you on the app here, that this it will be disabled basically if there is no any, like if there is any one of this input is missing, then this will be disabled, and you need to create a test case for this. And to do that, let's first come back to this component. Let's find out. So we have this variable here, and this variable has this conditional here. If there is no first name, or if there is no last name, or if there is no email, then we return false. So, and then we'll use this variable here to make a condition to show a class. As you see here, if this invalid, so basically if invalid the user, then we'll show disable button, otherwise it will not show that one. Let's just create a test to see, and let's first not add all users. As you see here, we can actually copy this here and duplicate this line, and just we are going to change it. And here we are not going to add any one of these actually. We are going to just add empty array, because if you read the description here, should display or should disable the button when one of the user data is missing, one or all of the data basically. For example, in this option here, we don't pass anything for the user, and just we need to change this query container to query text, and then we need to select the button. If we come back again, this is the way how to select a button. For example, this button here has a text called submit. Let's select this button, just call it const button, and then we'll call this query by text, and then we'll write the text here, submit. And what we need to check, basically we need to check this button class list should have a disabled class, and then will be expect, and we expect this button dot class list to contain a class called disable. And if we save that, let's just recap this quickly. First, we'll run our component and we'll pass all props except the user props. Will pass empty object here. So in this scenario, should show disabled button. And how we know that? We need to select first the button, and we need to check this button or the button class list to have this disabled class. And if we run the test, let's run just that test again. And after pass, also as you see here, this is the second test pass, now test case pass with a description. But also let's just make sure it's should be failed also. Let's just call it like enabled, should be enabled. Let's see, in this scenario should fail, shouldn't pass. If fail, then our test work fine. Here we are. See, it's saying we expected to be enabled and received disabled. And just let's change it back again to disabled and run the test again, should be pass. And let's go to next and last one for this component. Let's enable this line here. And what is this about? Should remove disable class from the button when all user data is provided. So this is when we need to enable the button, and when there is all the data, we need to make sure this button is not disabled. And also we can actually copy this one again, or this is the same scenario actually here. This is going to be same, and just we are going to modify the data. So instead of empty user, I'm going to use the full user here. This props here is the full user data. In this scenario, we'll have the user with the full data, and also the same button. And instead of disabled button, we should not to contain disabled button. So this is just what we need to check. We need to check the button class list not to contain this disabled button when we have list of user data, all the user data basically. If I run the test again, as you see, this is the third test case is passed. Also, let's again make sure this test is failed. And instead of not, let's just check it. It is contained, should be containing the user. It should contain this disable and should fail. And as you see, here is the expected value to be disabled, but we received empty object. So that again, our tests work fine. And if I just run it again, and that should pass. And next one also is going to be very simple React component test for this user component. And the user component, very simple component, just to display list of user on this side. If you go to browser in this section here, and that's just going to be this here. And we are going to just to take a snapshot for this. And let me remove this snapshot first directory, and let me also clear this snapshot. I'm going also to bring the test code or the skeleton to just speed up the video. So in this file, let me just add this code. So basically this is again importing React component and render from this testing library, and user component, which is just this here inside this index, will be called users. and the file you can call it users.test.js. This is how you can create the file name for the test. And here this also again will be a wrapper for the list of test cases for this users component, and inside here we can add our test cases. And in this scenario we are going to just to have only one test case to make sure the component is rendered. And again, this will be just similar to what we did previously, and will be equal. We'll create a variable and then call render render function, and then we'll pass this users component to this render and close the component. And then here, and here we're destructuring the container from the result, and we can just expect and container to match a snapshot. And let's see if this users is expecting any props. And if I come back here, so users, it will expect array of users. Let's create this props inside, and also again here the users will be has this user and will be passed to this card. Let's see what users key will be look like if I come back to this user card. And user again will have first name, last name, email. If I come to this and let me create a variable or props here, call it users, and this will be array and has list of user. Let's just add one user, first name and last name and email, and we'll pass that as a props to this component here, and that should it. So basically if I run again the test, and this time instead of this, all this previously was only about this file, and I'm going to change this to be users instead of form, and here will be users. This is how to run a test for only one file, but if you need to run the test for all files, you don't need to specify the file directory. But because here I'm trying to just showing you each file independently, and that just will help me to explain this one by one. And that has an issue here. There is an issue. The test case is passed, but there is something here wrong with the body. And if I go back to this snapshot, we can find out our skeleton for this component. Basically that it. So if again, if we need to fail this component, we can just come back again here, instead of this email, call it test, for example, and just try run again the test, and this time should fail. This will take just some second. As you see now, the test is snapshot is failed and is expecting email and receive test. Let me change that again back, and if I run it again, and that the test here is passed, and here this test case is passed. And also actually this text warning is complaining about the ID because we didn't pass the ID here to the user. Let me, if I added ID here, should fix the warning. That should save it. If I run the test again, we shouldn't have that warning again. So was just complaining about the ID that we didn't pass it, and the React will expect that as a key. As you see now, we have very clean console and very clean test case. And if I run now all test cases without specify the directory name, we should have around 3 files with the 9 test cases are passing. We talked in this tutorial in 2 files only about the form and also about users, and on next tutorial we are going to talk about this dashboard hooks testing, which will be for a stateful component, which is more complex than this, and you can learn more things. And if you got this useful and you learn from this tutorial, try to press thumb up and leave your comment down in the comment section and tell me how did you find this tutorial. And if you have any suggestion, also leave that down. And if you new to my channel, try to press some subscribe button and enable the bell notification to get all new tutorial and videos. And see you on the very next tutorial.